Welcome and thank you for joining Andre Renee's Creative Cafe. This is a show that focuses on the arts and artists' God-given talent. We strongly believe that you are your passion. And on today's show, we have a wonderful person, Mr. Chistopher, I am a writer, Jackson. Say hello to our people.
Hello, how you doing, everyone out there?
And before we get started, I want to give a few shout-outs. I rarely do this, but we want to thank the Other Art Affair for inviting us to the private art showing. I believe they had this show for about 4 days. So the first day was for the family and friends, and the second day is the private audience, and then the public had the next 3 days. So we want to thank Yvette Warren over at Little Black Pearl for facilitating our invitation. And we know Little Black Pearl had something to do with that. And we stand behind Little Black Pearl. So wonderful CPS school, they're doing big things over there. So we want to send a big shout out to them. We also wanted to send a shout out to Ronald China Jackson. He's located in Indianapolis, but all our West Side High School people, you know who he is. He did win a People's Award. If I said it wrong, forgive me, brother, but that's my born day brother. We was born on the same day. We went to the Navy at the same time, came out about the same time as well. So that's my born day brother. So listen, brother, I love you. Congratulations on your success. But we are sitting next to a gentleman that is just so powerful. Didn't understand through the bio, he kind of cheated us on the bio, but we're sitting next to an ordained pastor, we're sitting next to author, award-winning poet, and we want to first start off with, you are a national 3-time published author. Let's talk about that.
Yes, sir. I've been blessed to be published with a group of anthologies. I was published through a direct poetry writing site called poetry.com, and they offered me the opportunity to write a 3-book anthology called Stepping Stones to Poetic Inspiration. And it was a 3 anthology, which I took some of my most dear, intricate writings and I put them into some books, which they, if you go through the poetry.com website, if you look up the word Stepping Stones, it'll actually pull up the 3-book anthology, and it's just a collection of poems that are of different formats and different types that really explains what spoken word is and explains what poetry is, and it kind of gives you some stepping stones as you grow. And it was definitely some intricate pieces included in that really ministered to me in my life and that helped me grow in this art of spoken word. And that was just an awesome opportunity to be able to do that. It was kind of surreal when I got the first copies and it actually had like the little ISBN
right on the back.
I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, so I can actually take this and send it to a bookstore and get this order. You know, it was really surreal, but it was really also very challenge to me because it was something that I had never did before. And when I completed it, you know, it did give me that feeling of accomplishment that I could share the things that I had and share them with other people, and now they can look into that, and prayerfully it does, you know, inspire someone as people have read through that 3-book anthology.
Okay. Did you release all 3 at the same time?
No, they were actually released in 6 months, increments. When poetry.com gave me the signing, release, I wrote everything down, sent everything in so it could be, you know, of course, properly copyrighted and all that. Everything could be properly edited. And then they released them every 6 months. They released an actual volume, and each one did have a separate ISBN number. So everything did work out. So, and you know, I had some people, family and friends that were ordering the books and everything, and I got back very positive feedback, and you know, that was one of the things that did spark me to continue writing and being an inspiration through spoken word.
Amen. That's wonderful. How old were you?
At that time, I had to be probably about mid-20s.
Okay.
You know, I had been writing for a while, so and for it to happen that early, you know, I always thought for something like that, for poetry and writing a book, you had to be seasoned and focused and had to have everything together. So I was like, wait, I'm getting this opportunity now. So I just jumped on it and just prayed that God would give me what I needed to be impactful.
Did they approach you, or they heard some of your pieces?
They actually approached me because my writing had kind of been on the back burner. And when I found out about the poetry.com website, I decided to like kind of submit a couple pieces to the website and just see what would happen. And they instantly gave me an email, and I got a phone call. They would say that they had been searching the site and they liked my formats and my writing. And I was like, and then they present me with that option. And I was like, wow. So, you know, and I was like, wait, I know y'all get a bunch of entries like per day. So to pick mine out, you know, this made me feel really good.
Like you felt blessed and fortunate.
Yeah,
I
felt like, you know, I'm like, okay, it may actually be something to this. You may actually be kind of good.
Are you still, is the book still moving now? Are you still promoting it?
I can always go to the site and get the ISBN numbers if anybody ever wants to order the book. So you know, it's always accessible to me.
Right, that's what we want. We want them to be able to go to either your website or however, what medium that you are selling the books, so our people can listen to what you read, what you have.
Yeah, they can always log on to poetry.com, and if you put in my stage name, which is I Am a Writer, and then you put in Stepping Stones. If you just put in the word Stepping Stones, because that's the title to all the anthologies through that site that I actually wrote, they'll all come up, and you can order them directly through the site, or you can get the ISBN numbers, which are posted on the site, and you can submit them to like B. Dalton Booksellers or whatever, and they'll be able to order them for you as well.
As a writer, as a poet, what actually inspired you, that initial spark?
My initial spark was actually the death of my father.
Oh.
My dad passed away thank you very much. My dad passed away at the age of 13. And, you know, we go through society, and, you know, a lot of times dealing with social issues, it's sometimes even now frowned upon when a male expresses, you know, emotions. When a male expresses his hurts, his pains, his fears, you know, it's thought to be less than masculine. So I ended up reverting to writing to get that out. All of my emotions, how I felt, things that happened within the relationship I had with my father, because unfortunately I wasn't one of those, you know, children that had the quote-unquote greatest relationship with my father. So even some of those emotions, I put pen to paper. And that was my paper and my pen. That was my sanctuary. That's where I went. If I was having a bad day, if I couldn't talk to somebody, if I couldn't get it out, my pen and my paper, that was my sanctuary. And that's how I dealt with it. And that's what kept the writing flowing. And you know, until you start writing, you don't really know all of those emotions you have in you. You don't have everything bottled up. But I got it out on paper, and I will be good.
The pain that we go through helps us to explain what we went through, and then someone could touch that, they can feel that, they can read that, they can embrace what we went through and say, hey, I'm glad I didn't go through that, or I'm going through that right now. And that helps ease the pain for them. So we are our brother's keepers in many ways. So as you warm the mic with your poetry, and as you enlighten people to different events that you guys go through, I mean, because you guys are very busy, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. So when you do what you do, you're helping someone. Spoken word is spiritual, man.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it's in the Bible, and it's like that fire never goes out. So once that it's ignited and that flame starts, it's always there. There's always a poem. There's always something that's going to enlighten someone. Ladies and gentlemen, these commercial breaks are brought to you by the Insurance Exchange, located in South Holland, Illinois. Ask for Brandy. Be right back. Thank you, and welcome back to Andre Renee's Creative Cafe. And we are with I Am a Writer, Mr. Chistopher Jackson. And so all you guys that's calling in, hey, go to WYCA. There's an app. You can find us on the internet. Go to 102.3 or type in WYCA, Rejoice, and you will find the app, and you can listen in. We want you to tune in because your favorite poet is on, and you're trying to reach him, and we want you to listen to what he has to say. Now, at the age of 13, you discovered poetry, and that's when your fire was ignited. Let's talk about your poem. What was your first poem that you like, this is the one?
The first poem that I actually wrote, and it was again coming out of some pain and tribulation that I had dealing with, losing my father. That poem was actually entitled "Man Down."
Man Down.
It was, and it was because of, realizing at a point in your life where it's a very intricate point at the age of 13, going into those teenage years, going right into high school. I felt like I was completely lost, because just really quickly to give a timeline, my father had got diagnosed with prostate cancer, and we at the family found out. So, but he seemed like he was healthy. He was fine. He was at my 8th grade graduation. I graduated 8th grade. He was still going through the treatments and everything. And over the summer came after I graduated 8th grade, and I entered into my freshman year.
Okay.
Around that August, September, when high school started. December of that same year, my father was gone.
Wow.
So it was just that quick that process happened.
Right.
So it was just like, man down. It was
Right.
like, okay, so where do I go? Even if I had a rocky relationship, well, who am I going to go to now? Who am I going to reach out to now to, mold me into that young man that I should be, or teach me those things that I would need to be taught in growing into the young man that I would be. So it was just a blow to, not only, my family, but to me. I was just lost.
Devastated.
And that's what that piece came out. It just was like man down, because I felt I was just out there.
Right. Fast forward a little bit. You and your wife, we heard your backstory, and congratulations on your helpmeet, your real, your everything.
Thank you very much.
He spoke very highly, and you can tell what God ordained something. And so they both warmed the mics together, and she did a piece last week, and today we're hoping that you have a piece ready for us. I don't want to blindside you, but if you have something, would you like to warm my mic, please?
Yes, sir. I guess I'll go with one of my favorites, and it would be my introduction piece. So I'll do a little bit of that.
Okay.
They call me the lyrical miracle, president of the pen, for ink is like a life source, it flows from within. Call me the masterminded being that has mended the massive movement of miscellaneous misconduct that happens through mind-blowing misdemeanors that modulate misery and modulate misfortune. But it is I, through my moral monologues and motifs, I found a way to mortify these messy mistakes. But after this, I've only moistened the mentality of the people to accept the many mercifuls of God. See, I've been born of a woman conceived from intercourse of opposite sexes by the adjoining of bodily fluids of different substances, then held captive in the uterocele liquid till I was conformed and reformed and transformed. So at my due date and time I would be born. So now that I have you and you that I have, a fire is lit, forming an excessive blaze, mixed with joy, happiness, anger, and rage, for my questions go unanswered. Who am I? I am who? What am I? I am what? Where did I come from? Come from? Where did I? I'm just one who is pushing, pressing, and positioning myself to grow in my gift that day by day is growing tighter. I'll now present to some and introduce to others. I am a writer.
Dig that. I like that. And then we get the snaps, the hand praise, the whole 9 yards. And again, poetry to me is so deep. Do you have a favorite poem?
I always like, I said I just did that snippet of my intro piece, which is entitled, my stage name, I Am a Writer.
Indeed.
I would have to say now at this point in my life, because I've been through, of course, many transitions through different events that have happened in my life. But I would say right now, probably one of my favorites that I love is actually my testimonial piece. And if I get a chance to warm the mic again,
there you go.
As you know, my brother, Mr. Andre, likes to say, I'll probably give a snippet of that. But that piece is entitled, Mr. I Was to Mr. I Am.
Now, saved and walking God's path, what age should that come about? Because that's very important, to be born again.
Yes, that came about around like the early 20s. I had, unfortunately, I don't like to give praise to the devil for anything because we know what his status quo is. So,
right.
But unfortunately, I went through a lot of things early in life, got into a lot of trouble, again, with having that absent father, was kind of lost. So was clinging on to a lot of things that were unfortunate, that got me into a lot of bad situations.
Okay.
But then it came to a point where it just really, I came to a crossroad. It was like, I'm either going to stay where I am
Right.
and risk basically losing my life
Oh, Jesus.
and, spending eternity with Satan, or I'm going to get this thing together and I'm going to do what God has called me and anointed me to
Right.
do, because
Right.
my mom did keep us close to the church. She kept us close to God. We did the whole Sunday school thing and all of that. So she kept the word in us.
Right.
It was just, I was just being disobedient and hard-headed, wanted to do whatever I wanted to do, play however I wanted to play, and really was living a life recklessly, thinking that there was going to be no consequence.
You have a young man out there that's listening right now, or going to be rebroadcast, because if he's out there and he's doing wrong, he's probably not listening to a Christian station. But at the event that he does see this, what would you tell that young man? Why should you come to Christ?
I would actually tell any young man, or any young person for that matter, the best reason that you can give your life to Christ is because it ensures your security for life again.
Amen.
The Bible tells us, be transformed by the renewing of our minds.
Right.
It ensures you that you will live again.
Right.
So no matter where you are, no matter if you think you're the biggest drug dealer, or you're the biggest player out there, or you got everything going for you, you can be riding on 22-inch rims,
Right.
and you got this fast money. That's not giving you security that you're going to live your life again. If you were to die right there at that position that you're in, your soul is going to be required of you.
Right.
So coming to Christ and giving your life to Christ, that is your number one security and your number one outlet to ensure that I'm going to live again.
Amen. We were talking earlier, and we were explaining how we used to sermonize. And I explained how before each sermon I had a poem, and you also suggested that, or you said that you interject poetry in your sermons as well. That was a wonderful thing to hear, because when I did it, the old school pastors looked at me and were like, "What are you doing?" I don't know if that's biblical or not. It's like, it's biblical, Bishop. It's biblical. And so, did God give you that inspiration? Was it from that spark when you incorporate your poetry, when your sermons, however you did it? Where did that come from?
I believe 100% that when we commit ourselves to doing what God has called us to do, that He uses whatever we have to get His message across. So if I was preaching a sermon on redemption, if I was preaching a sermon on salvation, or even if it was blessings,
Yes.
if there was a piece that I had that described the blessings of God, how they have come in my life, or how God has redeemed my life,
Yes.
then that's just God using what I have, a gift that He's given me, to incorporate it to get the word across. The Bible once again does say that he that winneth souls is wise.
Indeed.
So the message that I may preach that doesn't have a poetic piece in it, it may minister. I'm not going to say it's not going to minister to one person, but that sermon that I now preach and I add in that poetic response to
Right.
it may grab someone that's in the audience that may be a sinner, but they may be a writer.
Right.
And they may understand that dialogue and that delivery, whether better than they would understand just saying, thus this, or thou that, or thee this. So it's just God taking what I have and incorporating into it to make sure that the message that I'm delivering, as I'm giving honor to Him and I'm presenting Christ, to make sure that the word is accepted, that is received, and that souls are saved, and that conviction is coming.
Right. That's beautiful. If you ever was in a place and you heard that beat and it just automatically just touched you, that's music, just flows, period. That's what I think about poetry. Poetry is that on a spiritual level. And so when you have a gift from God and you are out there warming the mic wherever you are, you can see the people sway. You can see the mm-hms. And so when you add that with the spirit world, it's just that more powerful. Poetry is very, very essential for us people. It's just like music. And after these commercial breaks, brought to you by St. Augustine Episcopal Church in Gary, we're going to talk more with I Am a Writer. Be right back. And you're back with Andre Renee's Creative Cafe. And we're talking about poetry, and you guys probably want to know, what can I do to be an award-winning poet? What can I do to get off the couch and implement my skills, my talent? What would you tell them?
The best thing I could tell someone that's looking to get into poetry or even to get into spoken word is to simply start to write. You know, a lot of things is not about knowing the exact sentence structure or the perfect words to have or the perfect, you know, analogies or metaphors and all of that. Simply start to write. Put pen to paper, and once you get the pen flowing and the words start to go down on the paper, everything else can be brought together. You can go to the formats and work everything out. Simply start to express yourself and start to write. Even if it has to start with simple journaling. Get you a notepad and just start to journal. Write down your thoughts and feelings. But once you get the words flowing, believe me, it will start to come, and then everything else you can put together.
Amen. A successful artist is a working artist. And before the show, I was exhausted because of his schedule. When he told me his schedule and what he have to do, and so on and so forth. So, how do you manage the time, and how do you become into the? How are you invited to these different venues?
Number one is scheduling.
Okay.
Between me and my wife, and like I said, she was on the show last week, and you know, definitely want to send out a big hello to my queen and my better, you know, half, Tanisha Jackson, better known as Black Butterfly.
Indeed.
But it's definitely a scheduling thing, and a lot of it has to do with making yourself accessible. And number two, knowing the reason why you're doing it, and number three, and the best one I like is saying yes. One thing that we committed, and before we go, one thing that we committed when we started performing and going about, me and my wife told God, we said, if you open the doors, we'll walk through them.
Indeed.
And as sure as he opened them, we've been walking through them. So when God brings it, we look at our schedule, we put it down, we know where we need to be, what days we need to be, and we're willing and we're obedient, so we're eating the good of the land.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, two can't walk together unless they agree. Two cannot walk together unless they agree. And him and his wife, they're walking in agreement. They're walking in prosperity. And if you heard what he said we. Amen. So we thank God for a loving couple. We thank God for people that's working together. Marriage work. Christian marriage still works. And we come into the portion of the show that's what would Jesus do? So my question, would Jesus want to be famous? If Jesus was here right now, would he want to be famous? And here's the thing. The answer is yes. Because I'm going to say yes. I want to be famous. Now, why do you think I want to be famous? Not for the riches and all that. That's a byproduct. And of course, you want that. But because I work with children, I have a Meet the Author program, and then I have a Work with the Author program, it's easier to come through doors to work the gift that God has given us. So Christ being our Savior, if he was here, of course he has to be famous so he could walk through these different doors. Amen. What's your response to that?
I would say yes, and I would say it for pretty much that same reason. When you are at a certain level of fame and popularity, you do have the opportunity to walk through some doors, and you have some platforms that are presented to you. And I believe that God puts us in those positions with our gifts. He lets our gifts make room for us.
Indeed.
So we can use those platforms and those positioning to spread his word even through the arts with spoken word and music and all of that. So I believe he would want to be famous so that he could make sure that he gets his message across and the people know that he is the true and living God.
Amen. Hey guys, consistent persistence equals success. You have to Always chomp at it. People will tell you you can't do this or don't quit your day job. Be persistent. And when you're persistent, you shall receive success. God bless you. We love you. Thank you, Mr. Jackson, for coming out.
Thank you very much for having me.
Godspeed to you and your wife. Every Sunday at 6:30, Andre Renee's Creative Cafe. Tune in and remember, we love you.